All right, board gaming enthusiasts, we're seeing this more and more. Heroic scale miniatures. As soon as one company starts regularly doing this, the other ones have to jump in because there's more money to be made, and we're pushing through that point bracket. We're breaking through that where it becomes normal. Now, I remember back in the day, we're going like way back, 2008, 2009, Descent, first edition. There's been a number of dungeon crawlers. We've got Hero Quest. There's been a few more along the way, miniature-based. But Descent First Edition was kind of unique in that it was the first of the Fantasy Flight coffin boxes at the time that retailed for over $100. It was $125. So means about 125. Packed with tons of cardboard, packed with tons of miniatures. And you know, the miniatures for the time, of course, the sculpts were impressive. But I remember at the time being amazed where I'm like, I'm in on this game because I love dungeon crawlers and I love miniatures, and I've been waiting for a game like this at the time, 2008. But $100 for a board game? Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot. I mean, that's the initial feeling. The truth is it a lot? Well, if you buy the game and you play it once a month or twice a month, you can't put a price on that good time with your family and friends and social interaction. But that was a big price point. Then now Kickstarter rolls around, and I know I'm compressing things a little bit, but Kickstarter rolls around, and you started to see this idea where you buy in with the core. Oh, core is $50. You know, retail core is $80, but if you buy in now, it's $50, and you get a bunch of miniatures. But then you want to buy the add-ons because you can get them for less money, or as the model shifted, FOMO, these add-ons, Season 1, X-Packs, things like that, they're not going to be released in retail. We're putting Kickstarter exclusives aside. But the idea was you either get on now or you don't. So you went into the Kickstarter planning to outlay $50 plus maybe another 50 or 60 for the add-ons that you liked. And then the rest you'll pick up on retail. You'll pick up some Kickstarter exclusives because you got to wait 2 years before it ships, not counting or including delays. But then next thing you know, you're like, I got to be all in now. And you're looking before you hit go, you're there for like $500 or $600. And that's the point where we're at now with various board games. Miniature board games, and sometimes not miniature board games, where you're spending $300, $400, $500, $600. And if you don't get in now, you're not in. Okay, but again, it's in your collection. You buy it once, you play it. Kingdom Death Monster, I outlaid a lot. For that with all the expansions. It was kind of crazy. Even my wargaming friends who were used to Games Workshop shelling out money every month, even they were like, Fritz, you're absolutely nuts. Like, this is crazy. Get some impulse control. And I have to say now, having Kingdom Death Monster, all the times that I've played it, put aside for the moment the fun, because that's depends on your perspective. I had fun building the miniatures. I had fun building the different item sets. I didn't get crazy and magnetize them, but I had fun doing that. So part of the cost of acquisition, I had fun hours building those miniatures. Even if that's not your thing, the time that I've spent playing the game, both solo, fantastic solo game, but also with my friends and the gaming group, whether we're playing a campaign or a couple of times it was like, hey, let's just casually play for a day, the price has worked out to be like next to nothing. If my thing was going to the movies or going to other things, the cash outlay from that would have long equaled it. So I understand it's a matter of perspective, but it's kind of that sticker shock because things have evolved. Now we're seeing the new price point and we're seeing the new thing, heroic scale miniatures. And we saw this in a lot of games. I first saw this, might not be the very first time, but I first noticed it with Nemesis, where miniature-based game, miniatures look fantastic. It wasn't just like, hey, here are the hero miniatures, and then here are the alien miniatures of the same scale, and then we give you like one little bumped up scale for the boss miniature. No, Nemesis had like, the crew, but it also has the Xenos that scale up in the life form to where the queen is massive. That's like a massive type miniature. That's impressive. You look at that and you're like, wow, that's amazing. That was the first time I noticed it. I'm sure there's other examples. But in moving forward, what we're now seeing is this idea that you've got your heroes or adventurers or player miniatures. You've got your minions that are maybe a little bit bigger, some little different sizes, trash mobs, 30, 40, 50 of those. You've got your boss miniatures, which are bigger, but now it's like a race of like the boss monsters or the end game or the end chapter monsters. They're huge. You're like, how is this even going to fit in the box? It's going to be a box in its own box. And more, as this gets pushed out, now it's no longer Kickstarter exclusive or Kickstarter FOMO. I have seen that. We see that with the newest, I call it the newest version of Descent. It's not a new version. It's a reboot. But now we're getting this idea that there's going to be 3 seasons of the game, and essentially it's going to be an end boss monster miniature, and it's huge, and it's massive. Well, we can bump up the price another $20, another $50, because psychologically you're saying, okay, I'm used to paying $100 for the core. I'm used to paying $120 for the core, but now we're getting heroic scale miniatures. I'll do $150. I'll do $175. When does it end? At $200. That's what's interesting. I think we're starting to see this shift in the board gaming community, where the next breakthrough is the giant-sized super heroic scale miniature, and they look fantastic. I think they work in board games where that regularly spawns. If you're playing a mission and you don't get things under control and the alien evolves or things happen, eventually it's going to come out in every game. That's money well spent, because we're going to get to see the model and interact with it. But I wonder, how is it going to work in more traditional RPG type games, where if I buy the season 1 box, and let's be generous, it's 10 scenarios. Well, that boss ain't showing up until the final scenario, or maybe it'll show up scenario 8, you fight it and it runs away, pulls that old trick to extend it. Then I'm paying an additional money. Yeah, it looks great, but if it only comes out of the box 1 mission, unless there's like a random dungeon generator, I wonder how that impact of value is going to be perceived. Is this a good thing? I think it is a good thing. Of course, you don't want the prices to go up because hobby funds are limited and outlay is limited. But I think this is an example of where competition is good, in that as these Kickstarters have started it and now it's crossed over to full retail release, if you're going to do a miniatures game, you got to bring the game, literally, with the heroic scale or the super end boss or the mega boss to fight, and make it an interactive part of your game. So a natural evolution of the board gaming community, the board gaming hobby. But absolutely, there's going to be a price jump, and that's the justification for it, which means it's just going to reset the cycle. We're going to get used to a 150 core for a while, and then there will have to be that next evolution, that next jump to 200 core. And again, not counting expansions, premium packs, season 1, season 2, season 3, kind of pushing and moving that forward.